I work at Windy City Live right now. I'm the line producer slash AD. I keep the show to time. I'm in everybody's ear telling them when to be quiet, when to go to break. I call all the tapes in the show, kind of like the field general every single day. The cool thing about the show is that they put all the producers on television there. So for the first time in my career since college, I'm now on the air, and I kind of just go through and the city and show my favorite places to eat. So I'm kind of like a food reporter, which is fun. Kind of a job you can't apply for, and when you get, you kind of just have to grab it and hope for the best. So I've been in this market for 8 years, straight out of college, bless you. And I never thought that I would be on camera after college. I was an anchor in school, and then I just focused my talent on developing other people. So I started at, quick background, I went to NIU, Northern Illinois. Wish we would have won that bowl game or that championship game a couple weeks ago, because he'd be in a bowl game right now. But went to NIU, was a sportscaster, started my own sports show there. And the reason why ICB is so great too is they allow you to do things if you have the time. So on my own time, I developed my own sports show. I used that tape to get in at CLTV as a sports intern with Lou Canellis. Lou is kind of like my guardian angel in Chicago. So I was his sports intern, and then they launched Comcast Sportsnet at the same time. This is back in 2004. So then I interned at Comcast Sportsnet. I drove from DeKalb every day to Comcast Sportsnet while they were located in Oak Brook. Was there for 6 months. Then I went back to CLTV to do another internship. And then as a senior in college, I didn't have a lot of classes. I was just, sports anchoring and stuff. And I got a phone call from Lou, and he said, listen, 3 people just quit. We want you to come in and interview. And I'm like, I still got 6 months left of school. I don't know if I can do this, but I'll make it work. At some point, I was just considering dropping out because, honestly, if you can get a job before you get your diploma, it's a good thing, especially if you're trying to get into this market. So I interviewed, went great. They're like, you got the job, and then via technicality, I didn't have a diploma. They were like, we can't hire you. Oh. So I finished my school. I cut grass and worked on cars for a little while, and I got like a phone call 2 months later and said, I was in Philadelphia watching the Cubs actually, because I was just hanging out, and they were like, you start on Monday. So I showed up, and after I showed up, this is right when the White Sox were going to the World Series, they 3 more people quit, and 2 got sick. So they were like, by the way, you're doing all the White Sox World Series coverage basically alone. So it was me and one other guy. I worked like 7 straight days from the time the playoffs started till they won the World Series. And it was one of those things where it was trial by fire. I had never done a live shot before. I'd never produced a live shot before. I'd been in the booth during live shows, but never done anything on my own. And it was one of those experiences where you have grown men looking at you saying, I've done this for 25 years. Why are you telling me to do something a certain way? And it really hardened me. It really made me wonder why I chose this field. And then it really made me grow quickly. So you can try as much stuff as you can here, but until someone throws you into the fire, it's really hard. And I thought about quitting, and it was like, why am I doing this? And then as soon as the White Sox won the World Series, they fired everybody in sports. So because the Comcast Sportsnet starting, and I was like, okay, what do I do now? So I interviewed for a job. They launched an entertainment show. It's called Metro Mix Television, based on the website, in partnership with them, 5 nights a week, half-hour show. And then I started at the bottom there and worked my way up. I started as an AP, then I became producer, then I became supervising producer, and then they canceled that show. So, and as this happens in this market, that's kind of what happens. Like, things get old. It was on the air for 2.5 years, and they were like, it's a money thing. It's kind of ran its course. So after that, I did infomercials for a guy named Dr. Jeff in Wheaton. He's like a back doctor. I did infomercials for him, for the Merchandise Mart. Whatever I could do at work, I did. And for me, I think one of the lessons in this market and in this field in general is don't pigeonhole yourself to one thing. If you want to be an entertainment reporter or a food reporter or anything, a regular reporter, general assignment, anchor, whatever, you have to go and learn how to do everything, so they can't give you a reason to let you go. Like, I could have got let go in any series of those show cancellations or whatever. I could have been let go. And I just learned, I was editing, I was writing, I was shooting, I was doing all of that stuff. So they couldn't really let me go. I was doing web stuff. Whatever they needed me to do, I did. Going on just client calls, trying to get people to buy stuff at the station. And you just kind of got to do that. So don't pigeonhole yourself to one thing. And the most important thing, I think why they kept me around a lot of the time, is the ability to write. So I can't stress how important enough that is to all of this. If you can't write, no one will hire you. You can be really great, but in the end, you're going to be writing your own stuff, especially where you start. So, and a lot of markets, they make you take a writing test right away. Like, they could love your look, they could love your talent, but they're going to say, hey, can you write? And they're going to give you something and say, write this. And you have to be competent enough to do that. So one of the things I think that you have to focus on, even outside of school, is just writing for broadcast. Whether it be, it's the same style on radio as it is on television. It's just different tones, as opposed with news and with food and with entertainment. Very casual with one side and very formal in another, but it's the same style of writing. What's the latest? Why should I care? And if you're able to do that, I feel like you're able to succeed in this business. But when you're doing tape shows, it's just like, it's all just on your schedule. It's like, all right, well, you got 5 pieces due this week, and they're doing 3 days. You got to figure it out. You can't, with live TV, you go home, it's over. Like, your show's over, it's over, whatever. It's not rocket science, it's done. So for me, I wanted that back. I was sick of just working like a dog. So even though it was fun, I got great food and I got to eat so many great places. I'm going to show you some of the stuff I've done on the air based on some of that in a minute. But Windy City Live, Channel 7 knew Oprah was going away. This is kind of how my worlds collide. And they knew Oprah was going away, and they're like, we want to do a talk show live. And I'd come from sports talk television. I did live television for 3 straight years, entertainment based. And I was like, I line produced all these shows. I did over 1,000 shows. I know I can do this show. So I applied and applied and applied and applied and applied. Like, I think over 300 producers applied for jobs there from all over the world, all over the country. I mean, Channel 7, if you guys don't know, is the largest, most successful ABC owned and operated station in the country. So of all the ABC stations that Disney owns, that is the #1 station. So for us, for everybody who's a producer, if you can get in there, it's like playing for the Yankees. At least it is on paper, right? You're like, okay, they have money. People watch regardless. They're #1 in the ratings in a lot of time slots. So why not? So they announced doing the show. I applied 3 times, not one call back. I had friends who were interviewing 3, 4, 5 times. I had friends who were on my show, people who were on the show I was working on interviewing. I was like, can you give me someone's number over there? And I got to the 11th hour where I heard they were starting to hire people, like people were signing on the dotted line. And I just got the boss's email and sent her an email. Marlene is her name, great lady. And I said, listen, I don't know if you know me. I don't know if you know my work, but I want to work at this station. I got an email back in 10 minutes, and she said, your interview's tomorrow at 4 o'clock, be here. Wow. So I show up, interview, went really well. She goes, I need a couple weeks to make a decision. We really like you, but, sorry. Like, not sorry, but hang back. And I'm like, 2 weeks from now, they're going to have the whole staff locked in. They launch in 3 months. They have test shows to do. It's going to be bad. I'm not getting this job. Before I walked back to my job, I had a phone call from her. She's like, you know what? We don't need 2 weeks. You're hired. And I didn't even, this is how stupid I was. I was like, all right, thanks so much. I guess I'll just wait for your call from HR and just come in and fill out the paperwork. I didn't know what my salary was. I didn't know what job I accepted. I was like, all right, I'm in. I was just ready to get out. I was ready to get out and ready to change. So I ended up getting the job as a field producer. So they had hired a guy named Mark DiCarlo, who was on our show for a while, to do daily pieces in the field. So they're like, you're going to be his right-hand man. You're going to go out and produce all these pieces because you're doing it at Chicago's Best. Yada, yada, yada. Well, that only lasted for like 3 months because we realized it was a lot more expensive to do than we thought. So they were like, listen, our senior producer's line producing right now. We're going to hire a new line producer. And I was like, you guys aren't hiring a new line producer. That's what I did. So I kind of tested it out, and then they gave me the chair. So since the show's been on the air, I've been kind of calling the shots and the control them on a day-to-day basis. My boss tells me what to do, but I kind of keep the show on the rails and hope we get in from commercial on time, everything gets in. Our talent, obviously is quiet when they need to be quiet and talk when they need to talk. And I think we're at 600 shows now, which is a lot. And I've been in the chair, I think I think all but 10 of those maybe, which is cool. Right now I'm going crazy because I'm producing the New Year's Eve show on Channel 7. We're the only one in town, so kind of going nuts at that. And that's kind of like where I am now. Do you have a question?
I did.
Tell me.
What time of day does your typical day start? And when you had that segment where they had the hamburgers in the audience, did you have also samples for the people in the audience?
No, that's a lot of hamburgers.
Okay.
That's a lot of hamburgers. And the problem with the talk show is you need everybody to clap. So you don't want to give them food because then they don't clap anymore. You know what I mean? Like they're there to be an active participant in the show. And while we do like them to eat something, because we do love them, we do, because that's the reason why we're around. If we do anything, it's like, hey, here's a gift certificate or half off for the next time you go to the restaurant. I'm not going to feed you here. So my day, the show used to be on at 9 o'clock and we moved to 11 o'clock just recently in September. My day then started at 6 a.m. I was up at 4:30. I had to be in the office by 6, morning meeting at 7, rehearsals from 7:30 to 8:30, on the air at 9, done at 10, meeting at 11 to decompress, done at 12, 2 hours, 2.5 hours of prep for the next day, you go home.
Do you work the weekends too?
If we need to. I'm working this Sunday because I need to work on a piece for the New Year's Eve show, but not necessarily. With talk Monday through Friday, it's really kind of an ideal schedule. When you work in news or anything else, your schedule is pretty staggered. You work a lot of weekends at the beginning, you work nights, because the 10 o'clock news is usually the highest rated news, so you work night side. And that's a different kind of schedule. But now my day is just pushed back further. So I'm in the office by 8, meetings at 9 to 10:30 rehearsal, 11 o'clock on the air, 12 o'clock off the air, 1 o'clock out of meetings, and then 2 to 3 hours of meetings or prep for the next day, and then we go home. So, yeah, go ahead.
When you talk about coaching, what do you mean? Are you looking
So,
at a person to bring in the person?
Yeah, so often I think. So this is Chicago, right? So in this market, people see right through you. Who's a BSer, who's not when they're on television, or when someone's new when they come into this town and they're reading your news and they say the name of the street's wrong, and they say like Devon Avenue, they say Devon Avenue, or they say Goethe, Gothi, or little stuff like that. You're like, that guy's not from here. And the city is different, and we always ask people like this who's on our show. We had Ron Majors on our show all the time, who's obviously the greatest anchorman of all time. Him and Bill Curtis are the greatest guys ever. And we talk about when did you know you were accepted? Because it's really rare to be in a market that you're finishing and grow up there. You know what I mean? Growing up in Chicago and then being on the air in Chicago, that career path is not easy. Eventually it's hard. It's very hard because you have to leave and then you got to come back and hope that you come back to a place that's good and then you stay. That's really difficult. So, Ryan Chiaverini on our show, he's been here for 8 years, but he grew up in California. Val grew up in California. But after a certain amount of time, Chicago kind of just slowly wraps their arms around you and then you're theirs, right? So here, you kind of got to know how you play. In LA, it's very sexy. They don't care about, as long as you look good and you can deliver whatever you're delivering and people don't have a problem with it, you're okay. New York is very matter of fact, right? Here it's people have to see you and like you. They might not like the way you say something or even the way you look necessarily. But if they can trust you, you're made here.